you're out here homeless? Tell me about it.
Well, you got other homeless who will help you out in times. You've got yourself who can do what you need. There's a lot of job opportunities on their table that can help you out and stuff. So literally, you just got to search for the right resources and help yourself.
So how'd you end up on the streets?
I've been in boarding homes since 2011, since I moved to Austin. I've been over 35 boarding homes from different companies and same companies. They all disrespected me, so I got tired of it. Literally went on the streets purposely to get help, to get my own place to where I won't be disrespected.
$72,000. That is not a stadium. That is not a festival crowd. That is the scale of human beings. Counted without stable shelter in Los Angeles County in 2025, an estimate first reported at 72,308 and later adjusted slightly to 72,195 after review. But tonight is not about California. Tonight is about Texas, a state that sells itself as unstoppable. Wide highways, booming skylines, oil wealth, tech growth, a culture that prides itself on grit, freedom, and resilience. And yet, under that same Texas sky, people are living in the margins under bridges, behind shopping centers, along riverbanks, and in the thin shade of overpasses where the sound of traffic never stops. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Progress is not measured by how high a city builds. Progress is measured by how many people it refuses to let fall. On any given night in 2024, nearly 27,987 Texas residents experienced homelessness, and 12,339 were living in places not meant for human habitation. That is not a small problem. That is an entire hidden Texas one that most people drive past at 60 miles per hour. Stay with me. This episode is designed to be YouTube safe. We will not show or describe graphic suffering. We will not glamorize drugs. We will not provide instructions for wrongdoing. We will talk about fentanyl only in a public health context because the reality is already here. And silence does not save lives. This is Homeless US News, and this is Street Stories, Texas, where the dream burns. 1. The hidden cities of the forgotten. Morning in Texas does not arrive softly. In Houston, the day can feel heavy before it even begins. Under the concrete ribs of major interstates, the air is a mix of dust, heat, and exhaust. In the quiet spaces, the city wasn't designed for underpasses, patches of trees, the edges of industrial lots. People build a version of home out of whatever they can carry. And this is not rumor. It is measurable. In the greater Houston area, a 2025 point-in-time count reported 3,325 people experiencing homelessness on a single night, with 1,182 living unsheltered. In Austin, the 2025 point-in-time count reported 3,238 people, including 1,577 unsheltered and 1,661 sheltered. In Dallas and Collin County, the 2025 point-in-time report counted 3,541 people experiencing homelessness. And in Bexar County, the 2025 point-in-time count reported 3,625 people. Now let's say what those numbers cannot. A count is a snapshot. It happens on one night, usually in January, because federal reporting requires it. It cannot capture everyone. It cannot capture the people who hide. It cannot capture the families doubled up on couches. It cannot capture the quiet collapse that looks normal from the outside. So to tell the truth, we have to talk about people without exploiting them. The stories in this episode are composite stories. They reflect patterns reported by outreach teams and local providers. They protect identities because the goal is not exposure. The goal is understanding. Meet Teresa. She worked. She paid what she could. She tried to hold the line. Then her rent rose, her hours fell, and an illness turned into missed shifts. The math stopped working. She lost her apartment faster than she ever believed possible. Now she keeps a sign that says, "Still believe in tomorrow," because when you lose everything else, you try not to lose your mind. Meet Christopher. He used to have a career that sounded stable. He used to hand people keys. Now, he sleeps close to places he once walked into confidently because it's familiar. And familiarity feels like safety when your life has become uncertain. This is what homelessness looks like in Texas. It is not always one skid row that everyone points at. It is scattered, hidden, and woven into the same cities that are celebrated for growth. And if you think it doesn't touch you, understand this. It only takes one moment, one job loss, one medical bill, one rent increase for stability to crack. Part 2. The system that pushes people off the edge. Nobody wakes up and chooses the street as a life goal. Homelessness is usually a process. First, the margin gets thinner. Then the emergency hits. Then the recovery takes longer than your landlord's patience. Then the eviction notice comes. Then you run out of friends to call. Then you run out of places to go. Texas is growing fast, but growth does not automatically mean security. In many cities, rents and home prices have surged while wages for many workers do not keep up. And when you combine rising costs with limited affordable housing supply, the result is predictable. More people fall. A mother in Dallas tries to juggle two jobs, but childcare costs swallow the second paycheck. A car breaks down, and without a reliable ride, the job becomes fragile. The job becomes a warning. The warning becomes a termination. And then what? A veteran in San Antonio applies for help, but the paperwork feels endless. The waiting list feels infinite. And the day-to-day survival needs don't pause while the system processes forms. A young man in Austin sleeps outside because he can't find a room he can afford. And he can't save money because every day costs money: food, transportation, replacing what gets stolen, paying fines for existing in public. This is the trap most people don't see. When you are housed, a problem is a problem. When you are unhoused, a problem becomes a chain reaction. No address means fewer job callbacks. No safe storage means documents disappear. No shower means interviews become humiliating. No sleep means your brain can't plan. No stability means you stop believing in next month because you are fighting for tonight. Now add to accelerants that turn instability into crisis, mental health strain, and untreated trauma. If you are dealing with anxiety, depression, PTSD, or a serious mental health condition, the street does not just fail to heal you. It makes you worse. Sleep becomes shallow. Fear becomes constant. Trust becomes dangerous. And the longer you stay outside, the harder it becomes to re-enter a world that expects you to be ready before you are safe. And then there is domestic violence, one of the most hidden on-ramps into homelessness. Some people become homeless because they ran. They ran from a home that was not safe. They ran to protect a child. They ran because staying felt more dangerous than leaving. That is the part that destroys the myth of homelessness as bad choices. Sometimes homelessness is what survival looks like when the system offers no better options. Part 3. Hell in the weather. Heat, cold, and the fight to last one more night. Texas weather is not a backdrop. It is a threat. In summer, heat can become brutal. The sun turns pavement into a slow-burning surface. Shade becomes currency. Water becomes life. People ration sips because they don't know when the next bottle is coming. In winter, Texas can still kill. Not with months of snow like the northern states, but with sudden cold snaps that arrive fast and hit hard. If you're outside, a freezing night is not uncomfortable. It is dangerous. Austin activates cold weather shelters when temperatures drop, moving people through a central intake location and providing transportation to overnight sites. That matters, because in moments like that, policy becomes life or death. But the hard reality is this: demand often outpaces capacity. Transportation can be a barrier. Many people do not know where to go. Some avoid shelters because they have trauma, because they fear theft, because they have a pet they refuse to abandon, or because crowded spaces do not feel safe to them. So people improvise. They sleep in vehicles. They sleep under bridges. They sleep behind buildings where the wind is slightly quieter. They rotate spots to avoid being told to move. And every time an encampment is cleared without a real housing option attached, the same suffering is simply relocated. Sweeps can remove tents. They cannot remove the reason the tents exist. And here is the part nobody wants to admit out loud. When we treat homelessness like a visibility problem, we create a survival problem. Because the more you push people into hiding, the harder it becomes for outreach workers to find them, serve them, and save them in emergencies. Part for fentanyl, the shadow crisis inside the housing crisis. We have to talk about fentanyl carefully, but we have to talk about it. Because fentanyl is part of what is shaping street life in many American cities, including Texas. It is showing up in emergency calls, in public health data, and in the quiet fear of outreach workers who know how fast a medical emergency can unfold. Nationally, the CDC reported a significant decline in overdose deaths in 2024 compared to 2023, including opioid-involved deaths. Good news that still leaves tens of thousands of families grieving. In Texas, the Department of State Health Services tracks fentanyl poisoning-related deaths with death certificate data and provisional trend reporting. But data is only the top layer. The deeper layer is why fentanyl becomes powerful in homeless communities. Not because people are weak, because pain is expensive to live with, because trauma is heavy, because street life is relentless, because when your body is exhausted and your mind is overwhelmed, the promise of any escape can feel like relief. And fentanyl is not a party drug on the street. It is often connected to dependency, to despair, to untreated mental health issues, and to environments where people do not have consistent care. Outreach workers carry supplies and reversal medication because emergencies happen. First responders carry it. Some public places train staff to respond because the crisis has spilled into everyday life. But here is the cruelty of the cycle. A person survives an emergency and then returns to the same conditions that made survival feel unbearable in the first place. This is why enforcement alone cannot fix fentanyl's impact. You cannot arrest your way into recovery. You cannot punish your way into stability. You cannot demand someone get clean while they are still sleeping on concrete, with no safe place to heal. If you want fewer funerals, you need fewer nights outside. You need treatment that is accessible. You need mental health care that is real. You need housing that is stable. Because the opposite of addiction is not willpower. The opposite of addiction is safety, support, and connection. Part 5. The most silenced story: exploitation, coercion, and the cost of desperation. There's a reality on the streets that people avoid talking about because it is painful. When you have no money, no privacy, no locked door, and no protection, vulnerability becomes a magnet. People living outside, especially women, LGBTQ+ people, and young people are at higher risk of harassment, coercion, and exploitation. And when shelter beds are full, when safe options run out, predators know it. We are going to be very clear here. This is not a story we tell for shock. This is a story we tell because ignoring it keeps it alive. Some people are exploited through manipulation and threats. Some are coerced into situations they do not want. Some are targeted because they are alone. And sometimes, desperation shrinks choices until survival feels like the only priority. That reality does not reflect moral failure. It reflects the absence of safety. It reflects the absence of housing. It reflects the absence of a system that protects the vulnerable before harm happens. If you want to reduce exploitation, you do not start by judging victims. You start by building safety. You start by funding low-barrier shelters that are actually accessible. You start by expanding women's and family shelter options. You start by strengthening outreach teams trained in trauma-informed care. You start by creating pathways out that do not require people to prove they deserve protection. And you start by listening without forcing people to relive their worst moments for our curiosity. Because a locked door is not just comfort. A locked door is protection. Part 6: What works in Texas: housing, prevention, and a system that does not quit on people. Now let's talk about solutions. Because despair without direction is just entertainment, and that is not what we do here. Across Texas, communities are trying different approaches, and the point-in-time counts help show both progress and pressure points. In Houston, the 2025 count showed an overall total of 3 325 people with a shift toward more unsheltered homelessness compared to 2024, an important signal that housing and services must grow fast enough to keep pace. In Dallas, reporting around the 2025 count highlights initiatives like Street to Home that focus on moving people from sidewalks into housing paired with services, including behavioral health connections, because housing without support often collapses, and support without housing often fails. In San Antonio, local reporting has described rising homelessness and the pressure it creates on shelters and budgets, including efforts to build more coordinated city capacity. And in Austin, the existence of coordinated cold weather shelter activation is one example of what emergency response looks like when a city treats exposure as urgent. So what does the evidence-backed playbook look like? First, housing first principles. Not housing last. Not earn your way out of suffering. Housing as the foundation. Because stability makes everything else possible. Recovery, employment, parenting, treatment, and long-term change. Second, prevention. The cheapest homelessness to solve is the homelessness that never happens. Rental assistance before eviction. Mediation between tenant and landlord. Legal support when a notice arrives. Short-term help that prevents long-term collapse. Third, health care connected to housing. If a person leaves a hospital and goes back to the street, their health will likely spiral. Mobile clinics, mental health outreach, and coordinated care can reduce emergency room cycling and create trust. That leads to long-term engagement. Fourth, treatment that meets reality. If fentanyl is part of the crisis, treatment has to be accessible, timely, and human. Waitlists that last months do not match the speed of the street. Recovery requires options that people can reach now, not only after they have suffered longer. Fifth, data transparency and accountability. People deserve to know what funding is doing, what programs are working, and where gaps remain. Not to shame communities, but to build smarter systems that actually reduce homelessness rather than manage it forever. And finally, community. Because even the best policy fails if the public refuses it. If every neighborhood says, "Not here," then nowhere becomes the answer. Supportive housing, shelters, treatment centers, these are not threats. They are stabilizers. They are what keeps a city from turning pain into a permanent feature of the landscape. Texas is famous for building big things, but the biggest thing Texas could build is a system that catches people before they hit the ground and lifts them before the street becomes their identity. Outro. The skyline is not the scoreboard. Texas will keep growing. More buildings, more lanes, more cranes in the sky. But if we keep stepping over human beings to get there, then progress is a costume, not a truth. The numbers matter because they reveal scale, but the people matter because they reveal meaning. The mother soothing her child in a place not meant for sleeping. The veteran trying to stay invisible because he's tired of being judged. The teenager pretending they're fine because shame is heavy. The worker sleeping in a car while holding a job that keeps the city alive. They are not others. They are Texans. They are Americans. They are human beings. If this episode made you feel something, do not waste that feeling. Turn it into action. Support local shelters and outreach groups. Advocate for affordable housing in your city. Speak up when your community debates whether to build services. Be the voice that says, yes, build it. People need it. And on a personal level, choose dignity. A nod, a hello, a respectful distance, a bottle of water if you can, a refusal to treat someone like they are invisible. Because the truth is, homelessness is not a character flaw. It is a system failure, and systems can be changed. This is Homeless US News. If you want us to cover a specific Texas city next, Houston, Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, or the smaller towns people forget, tell us in the comments. Like this video so more people see it. Subscribe for deeper reporting. And share it with someone who still thinks homelessness is someone else's problem. Because the real measure of a state is not its pride, it's its protection. And the real measure of a society is not how high it builds, it's how many people it refuses to abandon under the bridges it celebrates.